You are watching Witches of the Moon, and it is Wednesday, and I am your hostess, Blythe. This week's topic is about offerings. Now, offerings are very individual, and they're very special, and I'm going to talk about some of my opinions about them, and keep in mind they are my opinions and my thoughts about them. So, offerings, when people are either become new to the craft, or they want to reach out to a new deity, or a new deity has reached out to them, they always go, they not always, a lot of times you'll see posts online asking people, oh, what does this deity like? And I always tell them, ask the deity themselves. It's like when you're going to a birthday party or you want to get a gift for somebody, you ask them what it is that they want or that they need. So they will tell you. A lot of the times I will go to a grocery store, or if I'm shopping or something, I can tell when I'm being drawn to something that is for my deity, because it's usually something that I want to purchase normally. And especially when you go to the grocery store with an offering in mind, you will start to be drawn to different things. So just pay attention when you're doing things like that. They will tell you what it is that they want. And things that I've picked up are not always the traditional offerings. So that is another thing. When you can also look into their mythology. You can look into their culture or background. So by that I mean if you're working with a Greek god or goddess, they may like olive oil, because olive oil is their culture. If you are working with a love god or goddess, usually rose petals are the first thing. Any herbs that are associated with love, water is good. Also, when you're working with a god or goddess of a sea or any body of water, shells are good, maybe some river rocks and, things like that. You also have to pay attention to the mythology of things that they don't like. So maybe there's a story where they were poisoned by something. That's not something that you're going to want to give them. It's like giving your friend strawberries when they're allergic to strawberries. So you do have to do some of your historical research as well. Now, when you're going to be giving offerings to ancestors or the dead, they like a lot of human things. So they like alcohols and cigarettes and cigars and foods, whatever their favorite foods are. Coffee is a big one too. Things that they cannot really enjoy. Now, I have a friend who died a couple of years back, and his thing was beer. So I will leave him out a beer. And so then you gotta think about disposal as well. Before I set my offerings, I always think of how long it's going to be out and what I'm going to do with it, because I don't do them extremely often. To me, they're acknowledgement and a thank you, and it's not something that I do currently all the time. So some people do them once a week, some people do them once a month, some people do them when they do spell work. I do them when I'm doing big spell work, and when I'm doing, if I've noticed something that has happened that my deity has had her hands in, then I will do a thank you. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, before I set that up, I always try to figure out how I'm going to dispose of it first. So that really depends on who you're working with. If I'm working with the dead, I will put it out for 24 hours. I also have kids, so I'll put it out for 24 hours, and then I will put it by a tree. If I'm working with Hecate, I will leave it on my altar, usually for a couple hours, because it depends on what it is, and then I will put it at the crossroads, because actually I have a crossroads right here near my house. So I will put it there for her. That is her spot. If you are working with a water deity, you want to bring it by water, if you have water near you, of course. You want to use the disposal methods that you have. I do know that some people will dispose their offerings in like potted plants and stuff. I personally wouldn't do something like that. It's not I guess it's more spell remains though. So another thing is when you give offerings, a lot of times people feel like they need to buy stuff. I need to buy this, I need to buy that, they want this, they want that. It's not necessarily always about buying stuff. You can do things too, especially if you're like the goddess Bast. Go work at or go volunteer at a cat shelter. Go you can work with homeless people. Maybe you can donate money, charities, different things that you can do. They don't have to be huge things. I know people who worked with the Norns, the three fates in the Norse pantheon, and they did a lot of embroidery work because that's about the tapestry of life. So they did a lot of embroidery work. So you can do a lot of, you don't have to always go buy things and do things like that. You can teach, you can do tarot readings. I did that for about a year. I did tarot readings once a month for free for people. It really depends on what it is, what you want to do. Keep in mind though, once you make that pact, it becomes like that decision. To me, it becomes like a contract. You have to do it. You have to do it. So don't ever say that you're going to make an offering and not follow through on it, because I don't want to be like, bad things can happen. But they may get pissed. And you said you were going to do something, so you need to do it, and you need to prove it that you're serious about whatever it is that you're asking for, you're doing. And a lot of times it is a thank you, and you don't want to back up on a thank you, because that's just not appropriate even with, us on the human plane. So another opinion I have is, if you're going to give dollar store offerings, and I always feel this about, I just do feel this about spell work too. If you're going to give dollar store offerings, you're going to get dollar store feedback. You're going to get dollar store results. So if you are in a financial situation where you cannot do a lot of things, do what you can now. Maybe donate your time. And then once you become better off, get better supplies or better offerings, or do more work, do different things that you can do to improve your situation. Because if you start out here and you're giving your dollar store offerings, and then you get up here and you're making a lot of money and you're still giving your dollar store offerings, to me it's disrespectful. So I prefer quality over quantity, and I think that's why I don't do offerings very often, because when I do them, they cost me a decent amount of money, and that's why I try to keep them to the bigger things. I know some people do them every day and that works for their practice, but I personally don't. So, and they can be herbs and different flowers and things that you find growing in your backyard. So keep that in mind too. You can plant flowers for your deity too. I'm trying to think of other options. That's all I can think of right now. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section, and I hope you have a good one.